All right, y'all. Man, I got a legend. I got a legend in the building, man. She's a writer. She's an actress. Hell, she's a muse. Just go to her Instagram page and look at her photos. Just look at her photos.
Thank you.
Every single photo is a portrait. Everything from the colors to the pose to the lighting to the stuff that's in the background. Every single picture is a portrait.
Thank you.
That's by design, right?
Sure. Sure.
So you grew up in Detroit. Mm-hmm. Okay, was it the East or the West Side?
Kind of both, because it's more like, I guess the East Side, downtown is considered the East Side.
You were raised downtown, okay.
Mm-hmm. Like I grew up in Indian Village for a big part of my childhood, and then I would be on right off Gratiot and Seneca from my grandmother's house.
Cool.
Spent a lot of time over there with my cousins. Mm-hmm. So I think that's considered the East Side.
Yeah.
And then I have like true East, like over by Denby, where my other cousins live, and I would be over there with them all the time.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay, so and you went to Cass Tech too?
I went to Cass. I went to Bates Academy too. So that's why I'm like, that's West Side. Okay. More. I had a whole life over there too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of Bates people. Y'all got a lot of pride, man. I tell you that. I'm proud of y'all school.
Yeah. Like, if you went to Bates and Cass, like, you are just a very obnoxious person. Yeah. Always telling people what school you went to. Yes.
Okay, so at Cass, because I know at Cass they had like electives or things that you study. What did you actually study at Cass?
I think I was in the health sciences. I thought I was going to be like a doctor with my own practice and an actor. So I was like, I'm going to go to school, medical school, open my practice, and then I'm going to be acting like on the weekends.
So you always knew you wanted to act?
Yeah. I started acting when I was 8.
8? Mm-hmm. 8? Okay, so now we got to talk about this, man. Before we move on to anything else, Ryan Milner, right? Legend, American playwright.
Yeah.
He was a writer. And also he even gave this definition. He was basically an extension of his community. Mm-hmm. So whatever was happening in the community, he felt it was his obligation and his duty to depict that, right, through writing. Mm-hmm. How was it growing up being the daughter of a legend?
Great. I mean, I think when I was the youngest, right? So I don't think you realize it as much. Like I grew up on the road with my parents. Like when I was born, my dad was opening a play on Broadway literally that day.
Wow.
And like flew back.
Wow.
And I was born. And then I learned how to walk and stuff in New York. My parents were on Broadway opening a show, So it just seemed like a regular part of life, right? And then when we moved back to Detroit and I was going to school, I was kind of like, oh, everybody doesn't live like on the road, and like I didn't know that,
that was your normal pretty much.
Yeah, like living on the road and being backstage and meeting people and whatever. I'm like, that was normal for me. And my mom was a dancer, so she was on tour with people. So I'm like, oh, and people would ask me what I did for the weekend. I'm like, went to Aretha Franklin's house and whatever. I'm thinking that's pretty normal. So I didn't know really who my parents were until I got older. And I think with my dad, it was like, okay, like I said, I started acting when I was 8, and it was in my dad's show. And I didn't know anything about like, oh, my dad is writing a new play that is going to go to New York and do all this stuff, and I'm going to be in the first one. I didn't know that. I was just like, I want to act. I know that my dad does this seriously. If he puts me in his show, I must be good, and I'm going to show up and be professional every day.
Wow.
That's all I knew, because that's how my dad treated me. Like, you're a professional. You get your check. Your lines need to be ready.
There was no favoritism at all. It was like,
remember your blocking. Yeah, like my dad he was not playing. So I think I just really always admired that he did it. But I think it was later on in life where I realized like, oh, like when people would be like, yo, I'm studying your dad in school. And I'm like, okay, And then he would tell me stories where I'm like, wait, you was like with James Baldwin, or you like,
whoa,
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it took me kind of more years to realize like, oh, like you really are like a legend.
A legend. And cool with Langston Hughes. We talked about that off camera.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, that was my dad's mentor, like direct mentor. That's one of the reasons why my dad got popular in that movement, in that writing, because Langston Hughes put my dad's work in some of his early like collections of like different Black writers in the Black arts movement. And my dad was on there. It's literally listed on there as Ronald Milner, which my dad hated. Because, but he was young. He was like this young up and coming writer, and Langston mentored him and kind of took him under his wing, and that was like a thing.
Wow. Wow. So okay, your dad cool with people like Langston Hughes, James Baldwin, right? And then as you get older, I'm sure you started becoming familiar with more current writers. Right? Would there ever be any contentious conversations between you and your dad when comparing the writers of his time with the writers of your time?
No, because, when my dad was living, I was more in the acting side. I hadn't really switched over. I was more just I just appreciated writing. And my dad would always tell me, you can write.
Yeah.
I liked writing. So I would just write short stories or, and then read them to my dad. And he'd be like, wait a minute, that's good.
For real?
That's good, babe.
And if he's saying that, because he's going to be honest with you, right?
My dad doesn't split hair. Didn't split hair. So I would just be like, okay, it's cool. But our stuff would more come in hip hop, where we would talk about that. Because my dad was 49 when I was born. So we had a big generation gap, where my dad would be like, what are these guys ain't got nothing to say, and I would be like, that's not true. Some people do have something to say.
Yeah.
And so like Tupac was somebody that my dad was like, nah, he got something to say.
Wow.
Right? Like that's a person who, he has this other stuff, but that's growing and he's young or whatever, but he has something to say. So I don't mind him, Nas is another person like that. My pops was actually cool with Nas's dad back in the day.
Wow.
My pops and my godfather.
Because Nas's dad was a musician. Or is a musician.
So like in the kind of in that same like generation or whatever. So they knew him. I think he has a son, Nas or something. And I'm like, Nas? He's like, yeah, he got something to say. I'm like, he does have something to say. So it was mostly that where we would talk about kind of the writers in like music and hip hop.
Yeah, your dad, he reminds me of like a Billy D, but just intellect, right?
Yeah,
Not to say Billy
that.
D wasn't an intellectual, but he was just smooth, and just the cadence in which he spoke and the confidence in which he spoke with. He probably was the guy that everybody wanted to be, because he made being an artist, a writer, look sexy.
Yeah, and cool.
But you kind of have that same thing, though. I mean, you know that, right?
I don't always feel like that, but thank you. I'll take that.
I mean, because like I told you off camera, your voice is a superpower, and that's one of the things that attracted me to you back during your Black and Sexy TV days was the confidence that you had, right? That's where I first came into, like, that's when I discovered you. And this was on, I think, Chef Julian's show. But you were also on Sexless, I believe, too. You had like a few episodes that you were on with Misadventure of an Awkward Black Girl, right? Which, like, obviously that was the thing that catapulted Issa Rae into the HBO dimension, right? But Chef Julian, right? Let's talk about that. Because people hated Yasmin at times, right?
They did.
But that's a sign that you were doing your job.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, and I was like, why do people hate Jasmine so much? But it was because to everybody else, especially during that time, right? I think today it's a bit more normalized, but the guy could be the player, the guy could be promiscuous,
Right.
but then when the woman plays the same game, it's an issue. And then really you can argue that you did it with less of an emotional connection than he than he did. It's almost this thing that, well, okay, women can play the game if they want to, and if they do play it, best believe they're gonna play it a lot better than us. And you did that. So how was it playing that role, and then how did you even get discovered by like Dennis Dorch and those folks?
That's actually a good question. We'll go back to that question because I actually got to think about it.
Well, let's think about what happened when you transitioned and went from Michigan to LA. But you probably went to a college that was outside of Michigan, right?
I went to school. So I went to school at the Guthrie Theater, which is in Minneapolis.
Okay. Minneapolis.
Yes, I had actually gotten into Juilliard and I'd gone and I was like, I don't know what's going on in this place. I'm not really liking it. And because I grew up in New York, I was like, I can always come back to New York.
Wait, hold on. No. You ain't gonna just throw that out there like that. You got into what?
I got into Juilliard. I did not go.
Wow.
But I was like, I don't really necessarily want to live in New York right now either. Because again, I grew up there, for a long time. And it's like, I can always go. I mean, I hope I can always go and do black. I can just go and do theater, not just black theater in general. Like, you don't really age out of being able to do theater because it's characters, And
what was it about Juilliard that you didn't like?
I don't even remember. I mean, you know, he was 17. I don't know.
So
I think I
long
just went
ago,
and was
yeah.
like, I don't want to be New York. New York's dirty. Like, not really feeling it
Yeah,
here.
yeah. It's a different culture
And
there. Yeah.
my dad had just passed away like that summer before.
Yeah.
And I went to go audition at these things called Unifieds, where you go audition for all of the, you know, conservatory programs at once. And MC would take us, she's a teacher cast, and she would take all of us to go audition for the Guthrie. There was this guy, Ken Washington, who had worked with my dad and my Uncle Woody. And before, I was talking to my Uncle Woody, his name is Woody King. He owns a theater in New York. It's really popular. A lot of black actors have gone through there.
Family full of royalty, man. Wow.
Yeah, Woody is, he is black theater royalty for sure. And I remember talking to him, and of course, you know, my father had transitioned, so I was like, you know, there's a school at the Guthrie, and this guy, Ken Washington, and I met him, and he knows you and my dad, and he was like, Ken Washington's great. Go to that school.
Whoa.
And I was like, okay. So I went, and of course, I was like, I don't know anybody in Minnesota. What is in Minnesota besides Prince? And I only knew Prince because of my older brother, so I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But I loved it when I went. There were teachers that it wasn't a thing of people trying to be like, oh, and we're this and we're that. It was like, we're going to make you the best actor that you can be. And that was always my thing. I was like, I can act, but I want the tools. I don't want anybody to ever be able to tell me no because I wasn't good enough. You tell me no, I get it. The industry is the industry, but it won't be because I'm not good enough, you know?
Yeah.
So I wanted to go to a program that felt like that. And our program also, you could study in London for a year. And at that time, there was all this conversation about British actors and black British actors and blah, blah, blah. And I'm
Being
like,
better trained and all that.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, let me go see what they're doing, you know? Because again, like if I want to be the best, like, all right, let's check off every box, you know? And I felt like I could do that there. So I went there, 2 years Minnesota, then in London, and then back in Minnesota. How was that for a year? London?
Yeah.
Great. I mean, I would say every artist who's American born should go there once because there's such an appreciation for artists. You know, when you tell a person you're an actor or a writer here, people are like, oh, ooh, it's hard.
Yeah.
You're not making no money, whatever. There's always this thing of like, oh, I wish, but I want to go have a life, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like kind of doom and gloom attitude where there's like, oh, wow, really? Wow, you guys work hard. Yeah. Like you actually put in, like they have the same reverence for artists as we do for like doctors or you know, lawyers or whatever.
So you would think going out there that they would probably be condescending or even look down on artists in America, but they appreciate us just as much as we appreciate them.
Yeah, and just in general, they would appreciate artists.
Art in general.
Yeah, they're like,
good is good, no matter where you. Right.
They're like, that's great that you do that, and you're like studying and like training. Yeah, you guys put in so much work. Like they understand that it still takes work. You know, you're not just like, ooh, put on a character costume. You know, like
yeah.
But yeah, so that was that. And then I moved to LA.
And then you moved to LA. Now, was there any temptation to stay in London longer, or you couldn't wait to get back? You was like, nah, this is just a pit stop. And
well, it was a part of the program. So like, okay, the program's over and, you know, and come back and do senior year, you know.
Okay,
so,
got you. Right. Because so it wasn't the last year. It was like the junior year. I got you. Okay. So then you went back to school for another year, right, to finish. And then you said, I'm going to move to LA. At what age did you know you was going to move to LA? Was it something that you always knew?
Yeah, I always knew that because I was like, okay, my dad did theater. I'm going to go do TV and film. You know, we're going to do the Milner thing, like all across the industry. And I just knew, I was like, I want to move to LA, you know. I don't like New York. Just never a place that I really felt like, oh, I really want to be there. Unless I was working on something. Then it's like, okay, cool.
It's cold in New York.
Yeah,
not just dirty. The temperature, but it's just the attitude. I know everybody walk around with like a guard up, so it's tough.
And it's dirty. It's dirty in New York. I don't like rats and all that. My sister loves it. My sister lives there. She's a dancer. She loves it, but
just wasn't for you. Okay, so now you jumped to LA. What was the difference between being in Minneapolis and being in LA? How was the adjustment like?
Again, I think growing up around the industry, like, you know, we have family who were TV actors or film actors, you know, like, you know, people who've been around my whole life. So I didn't feel as much like a fish out of water. Yeah. But the industry was changing when I moved. So, you know, I followed what I saw my heroes do, right? Like Denzel, Angela Bassett, they all went to school. Yeah. Pacino, they all went to school. So I'm like, okay, that's the key, right? Go get the training and blah, blah. And then when I moved, the industry is transitioning into like Vine or like YouTube or like people were doing different things, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you would go into an audition and someone's like, you have a Vine, or like you're in there with like a celebrity and you're like, what's she even here for? Like, you know, type thing. And so understanding that, oh, the business is not just talent, right? And me feeling like, well, I work hard and I'm very talented. So cool, you know, but that's not it. So that was more of the thing, is like learning the business side of it. That was like, okay, this is a business. It's about who you know. And then also defining what success is going to look like for you, right? Like, is it going to be getting a TV show? Is it going to be getting a movie? It's going to be making your own movie? Is what rooms do you actually want to be in? It's not just, well, I just want to get an agent. I just want to be working. Working on what? You know?
Oh, I got you. What were some of your goals as soon as you got out there? Because I know some people that go out there and you ask them like, well, what's your goal? And they're like, oh, I just want to be a big movie star. Right. And I'm like, man, that's not specific enough. Yeah. Did you have very specific goals when you got out there, or was it like, you know what, I'm gonna take it a day at a time?
No, I've always wanted the same thing, which is I wanted to make a good living creating art. And I wanted to make art that I felt like lived forever. Like one of my tattoos that I have is like, legends never die. Wow. And that's what I remind myself. Like, you can do one thing and be a legend, you know, but you had to have done a really great, excellent thing. So like, that was always my thing. Like, I want to create great art and I want to be respected by my peers. My peers with people who I think are talented and all that. And I want to leave a mark with what I do. So if that's through being famous, fine. If that's through just being like, hey, I pop out, I drop my art off, and I go back home to my family.
That's cool too.
That's cool too, you know? So that was definitely the thing. But I mean, you're young, of course. You're like, shit, I'm trying to get on. Like, I'm trying to be Kerry Washington. Like, what are you talking about? You know, of course, that's a part of it. But underneath all that for me has always been like, I can't have the last name that I have and have been around the things that I have been around and not care about what I do and how I do it and what it looks like. You know what I'm saying? Not looks like ooh, I'm on, but that it has some heart to it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so now we can get to the Black and Sexy TV, because they inspired me, man. When I first saw what they were doing, it was like, whoa, I can't tell where the script begins or where it ends. And they inspired a lot of my early work in the web series domain. How did you get on their radar? Did you audition for that role?
I did not. I won. That's what it was. So I made a film called Love Escapes Us.
Oh shit! Hold on, we're gonna have to talk about that right after this. Go ahead, keep
going. And I won the Essence Black Woman in Hollywood Award.
Wow! And you wrote that too.
Yes, me and Anthony Phillips, who's the lead with me in it, but we both wrote it, and made this film. Just like, okay, make a film. Yeah, something that we think is dope, and won the Essence Black Woman in Hollywood Award, and I think that Numa was there when I won. I think she was there. I'm not sure, actually. I really don't remember how that came to me. I know that she reached out to me and said, like, let's do, like, I want you to be a part of this.
But it had something to do with that film, though.
Yeah, but I think I met her some other way. I don't even really remember. Maybe Dennis brought me on. I'm not really sure, but Numa's actually my sister-in-law now. She's married to my brother.
Wow.
So I'm gonna ask her. I'm like,
how did we meet again?
But somehow someone was like, we have this role in this show, and she's kind of, this kind of gonna be this girl who's like a very self-assured, whatever,
confident,
and it was first in Sexless, and then Chef Julian came, and she became a real part of Chef Julian. And so did you have any reservations about playing that role? No, that's the fun role.
Yeah, that's
to
the fun.
me. I'm like, because I'm not like that. So
that's the next question I was going to ask. How much of that character is like you? The confidence part, I think, is probably
but the rest of it, no, I'm a lover girl. Yeah. I'm always like, but so no, I'm not like that. So I'm like, that's fun, and I feel like that's why I had so much fun with that, because I'm like, I could just do whatever. She could say whatever. She can wear whatever. You know.
And that's what I remember. You were getting interviewed, and your persona. This is when I realized who you were in real life was a 180 from who you were as that character. But somebody asked you a question like, hey, which guy would you date in real life in the Black and Sexy TV universe? And he was like, none of them.
None of them, not a single one.
And it's no knock to them, but it was like, no, I'm a professional. Like your dad told you when you was younger,
Never.
you know? Yeah.
And I'm cool with those guys. Like Will, you know, who was on that guy. And like all these guys, I know them. They're cool guys. You know what I'm saying? Never.
Wow.
Never, no.
Wow. Love Escapes Us, man. It was like a black and white joint, maybe about 15 minutes long. People can check it out on your website. Right. And I saw this and I know it had to be inspired by something real. Right. And just a brief synopsis. You and this guy meet on a bus. You wasn't feeling him. You wasn't in a space where you even wanted to talk to anybody. It ends up leading to a relationship, right? Y'all had a blissful stage, and then all of a sudden you start seeing the problems occur, right? There was this moment where you thought he was getting ready to do something that he didn't do. And that's when I realized for the first time, like, she ain't really all the way in this, right? And then you couple that with the fact that you were having flashbacks of your ex. And it's like, well, maybe this person hadn't fully moved on from this situation, right? Well, things didn't work. I hope you don't mind me spoiling
you can spoil it. It's fine.
Things didn't end up working between you and this guy, and he was devastated. Kind of like you were devastated in your last relationship when it ended. And I can tell it ended because he didn't want it to exist anymore, because there were flashbacks of you talking and he was just like, I ain't feeling this. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, you end up leaving the next guy. He's devastated. He meets somebody else. She's into him a lot more than he's into her. And the cycle just repeated itself. He's having these flashbacks of you, and then he eventually walks away from her because it just wasn't it wasn't the right thing. What inspired that story? Because it's so, in no words. So y'all got to understand, when it's actually harder to act without words, because you're conveying everything through your eyes, which that's another one of your superpowers, because somebody can look at you and tell how you feel, right? So perfect casting, obviously, for it. It was your project, but perfect casting. So what inspired that?
I mean, life, you know, I think at that age, I don't know, I had to be like 25 or something, 26. And, you know, you've had a couple of those, right? Where you're into somebody, you really like them, and you're like, oh my God, you know, whatever. And he's just like, girl, you know, whatever about you. You know what I'm saying? And then you're like, I'm devastated by that. You meet somebody new, you're like, you cool, I guess. You know what I'm saying? But you haven't moved through whatever you thought that last thing was going to be, you know? And as the thing is going on, you're hoping that you will catch up to how they feel about you, but it just doesn't happen, you know?
Yeah,
I think men do. I think men take it further. We'll go longer with something than women will. Where we go, okay, enough.
It's been a couple of months now.
If I'm just not feeling, it's fine. I'm not feeling you, whatever. So that was really it. But the part where they have where she thinks that he's about to like propose or whatever it is, that actually was Anthony's story. That actually happened to him.
Wow.
And so that was the part that he like really wrote, because he was like, this actually
I know
happened.
how this
should happen
felt.
here. Like, you know. But yeah, we made that film on like nothing. Like we fed people.
I saw the credits. It was like maybe 6-7 people.
Yeah, I mean, like some of those overhead shots in the street. You know, we're driving in the car. We put a GoPro on the car. Just driving around in circles trying to get those shots, you know.
And that goes to show it's no excuse if you want to make something.
Yeah, you know, Craig Tovey was our DP and our director. And Craig was just out here, like, you know, we have this shot where we're arguing in the street, but we're arguing on like an overpass. It's a beautiful shot. This man's standing in the street.
Shout out to Craig.
Yeah, waiting for cars to go past to get that shot. And it's a great shot. He does a great job. Yeah. And just, you know, asking for favors. Like, hey, you know, we need this laundromat. Let's just go ask this laundromat if we could shoot in here. We can't give you anything.
Wait, and this is in L.A.? You know, L.A., that's like the biggest form of commerce out there. So them businesses be wanting something.
I can't give you anything. Can we just shoot in this laundromat? We're going to be in here for 15, like maybe 15. We got one camera, no lights. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, like, we really just made that film, and that the whole point of it was like, okay, we're gonna use this to get something. Wow. You know, wow. And Anthony and I have been working together. We did some Funny or Die stuff. We used to do like skits with Funny or Die, and so we were like, we work good together, but we wanted to do something serious and dramatic, and So yeah, and the whole idea was like, use this film to get something, an agent, or this or that, and move along. And for me, it was Black women in Hollywood, and that really just changed my life and my career.
Yeah, I love the fact that the film didn't vilify any of the characters, because you weren't the bad guys. Like, you didn't go into that situation thinking it was going to go bad. No. It was like, hey, I had a bad experience the previous time, and I'm going to get back on the horse and try again. Mm-hmm. And sometimes as a result, it doesn't end well for, for the other person, but that's the risk we take. So that's what I thought was so dope about it, is that it just showed people.
I'm realizing that how many times have I been through that since that film? Maybe I shouldn't have made that.
All right, I'm gonna taste like yeah. Well, that's the next question I was gonna ask, right? Because I had my friend Keisha Edwards. She's a comedian out in LA, and she was talking about the horrors of dating in LA. Is it different? So she also has this bid in one of her stand-up routines where she's like, man, when you in Detroit, a nigga will holler at you when you on your way walking out the church with your grandma. Like, you ain't got no problem getting approached in Detroit, but in LA. It's different. Minneapolis, I'm not sure how it is. So how has it been dating out in LA? And now you're in Oakland, but when you lived in LA?
No, I actually live in DC now.
You live in DC?
I live in DC now.
Okay,
yes.
we're gonna have to talk about all this. But how was it dating in LA?
I've been in DC for 2 years.
Wow.
Dating in LA never was a problem for me, to be honest. Like that, I think it just depends on. I had a boyfriend in LA for a little bit. We met doing a play, so that was that. Mm-hmm. And then I was like engaged to somebody in LA. We met. Don't even remember how we met. I can't remember 100% how we met, but.
You were engaged?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, I didn't have a problem dating. I understand, one, just being a Black woman in a city like LA that's all about a certain look. Mm-hmm. It's difficult, because you are like, I'm a Black woman. Yep. That's it. No mix, no nothing. Two Black parents, Yeah. And people are like, I'm trying to get a Kardashian or whatever it is. And you're like, I am not that. And I don't want to be that.
Absolutely. And if you want that, then you going on over there somewhere.
And being from a place like Detroit, it's like, you dark, light, don't matter.
They don't care.
You fine. I want you. That's cool. Mama, daddy, don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like, so just being a Black woman in LA is already difficult, but then definitely if you're a Black woman who wants to date Black men exclusively, it's tough in LA.
So, and I'm gonna try to ask this without getting too personal. You were engaged. It didn't make it to the wedding, right?
Right.
I guess looking back on it in retrospect, what did you learn from that situation?
I'm trying to think. I mean, he just ghosted me 4 months before we got married. So I wrote about this for Shondaland. And yeah, if you
Shondaland
want to read it,
it's
on, it's on the site. But I think I learned a lot about myself in that situation, because you hear stories like that and you're like, well, if that happened to me, and it's like, I'm actually not that person. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, I packed my stuff, packed his stuff. Ain't heard from him since. Like, it was like, okay, 4 months away from a wedding, everything's paid for. We live together in a house in LA. Like,
wow.
I haven't seen you since, like, literally. And I don't hate you or anything like that, because you have to be suffering on some level to do that to somebody who you've like lived with and created a life with, and you asked me to marry you. Like, this was your choice.
Yeah.
So, and completely unprovoked. Like, it was just like, oh, you're not, hello? Answer my phone calls, maybe, I don't know.
Wow.
So, I think what I learned is, like, you really have to be good with yourself, 100%. Because even if you're like, we good, we rocking, getting married, all those things, people will do what needs to happen for themselves at some point. And you can't...
You have to accept that to a degree.
Yeah, you do. There has to be literal radical acceptance that, like, that person did that.
Radical acceptance. I like that.
Yeah, you have to, because if you go into that, like, why place all the time, which I'm a Virgo, so I'm always like, why?
Yeah.
I want to know why you do. Yeah, you'll torture yourself, because you cannot understand why people do some of the things that they do. But I also learned that, like, I'm actually solid. Like, I'm a solid woman. Like, I'm like, all right, bet. Oh, sorry, that was a clap.
That's cool. That's all good. That's all good.
I'm a solid woman. Yeah. Like, that happened. I bounced back, and I was like, all right, bet. cool. Lost the however much money or whatever was gonna happen on the wedding, but like we're good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like I can still rock with people. I'm not just out here like I hate every nigga. Like,
well, that takes a high level of emotional intelligence, right? I don't have no idea where you got that from, because you were young, and that takes sometimes a lot of time and experience to develop, but you had it at that age, and I think that's a way to minimize, or at least that's a way to prevent a person from carrying resentment and bitterness, right? Yeah, but the fact that you didn't do that, and then then you also said that you kind of got a sense of what you were made of. A lot of times we don't know how strong we are until we go through something like that, and we're faced with that type of adversity. But you realize from that like, yo, damn, I'm pretty solid.
I'm solid, like I can stand on my own too, for sure, no matter what happens, because you know, I mean, you don't know.
You lost money, time, all this. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a man, like, but being a woman, you know, you like, okay, you get engaged. It's a feeling of like, I'm rocking with this person. I trust this person. I'm protected by this person. We're good. And when that's like
stripped up,
you're like, whoa, like, damn, did I put myself in harm's way, low key? Like, what's really good with me? And so, you know, forgiving yourself and doing all those things, you're like, couldn't have seen that coming. Nobody could see that coming, you know. And
y'all haven't talked since?
No.
Wow.
No, don't know where he is. He sent me an email. Yeah.
Wow. Got you. Okay. Okay. So that's the.
It got deep there for a second. It got super quiet.
Yeah, but that's the type of stuff that I think people can relate to. It's very human, and I'm just fortunate that you were willing to be that transparent about something like that, because there's so many people that can learn from that.
I wrote about it. You know, anything I write about, I'm willing to talk about, because at that point, I have enough of a distance between me and the thing. If I can write about it, that's what I know.
And you can be objective about it. I'm sure it was cathartic in a way. Shondaland, right? Yeah. Shondaland, Refinery 21.
29.
29. Shit.
It's okay.
Hey, Refinery, I don't want y'all to let that stop y'all from reposting this.
2190 is what I also wrote for. That's why I just got confused.
2190 is what you also wrote for. Hold on. I want to make sure I don't get this wrong. XE Nicole.
XO Nicole.
XO Nicole. Shit. Yep. XO Nicole. Right? So, and those are three really big entities. Wait, hold on. I'm missing something, because wait 1 second, because I'm going to get this right.
Okay.
Because you're an actual author for those that I just mentioned, right? And then you're a contributor for People magazine? How the hell did you land all of these things? First off, you went out to LA. You didn't know whether or not you wanted to be a writer. Right. You wanted to act. How did you get from acting to being a writer and landing those type of dream gigs?
I started a magazine. I had a magazine for 4 years called Edge. And that was it. Honestly, it was like I was working at a record label, and I was like, you know what? There's so many dope artists out here, and I'm seeing the same like 4 people on the cover of magazines, you know? And I had worked with people too, so it was like, you know, like this is before Issa had HBO, whatever. I'm like, somebody should be writing about Issa, you know? It's before Michael B. Jordan did, what was the movie?
Fruitvale Station.
Fruitvale Station. Sorry, Mike. You know, I knew these people, and I'm like, these people are dope, and they're about to blow. And so I was like, I'm going to write about these people. So I had a friend who was a photographer at the time, and we were like, all right, she wanted to shoot celebrities or whatever. And we were like, we could start a magazine. We didn't know. We were just like, we could start one. You know, you're young. You're like, we could do it. So we did it. We started it. And for some reason, people started to trust us. Like, okay. We would get emails from people like, hey, I'm Tiana Taylor's manager, whatever. Do you want to interview her? Yes. Send her to us. And we would just, you know, go shoot in places that we could shoot. And we had friends who were willing to do makeup and friends who were willing to, you know, pull clothes and for us and all that. And we were just running a magazine, like, for real. And so that was really
You and how many other people?
There were 3 of us originally, then 2 of us. Then I ran it by myself for 2 years.
Wow.
Or like a year and a half. So it was really just like, okay, I just bet on myself with the magazine. And that was how I started the writing part. And I remember I bought this book. It was like a book of Rolling Stone interviews. And I just read them every night. Like, okay, that's how you ask a question. That's how you pose it. That's how you whatever. And I would just write the stories. Like I would write, I think by the time we finished, I had written like 300 stories, 300 cover stories.
So you put in the work.
Yeah. And I just would stay up and write. like, that's it. And I had a job at the time, like I said, working different places, but working at the label primarily.
Just to pay your bills and stuff.
Yeah. But it was like, okay. And then everything else went into how can we make this magazine work? And through that, though, because I've never been like a go out club type of person, but we would have to sometimes go to functions and stuff or whatever. So I would meet people through the magazine. And that actually helped me too open doors, because I was a go home and work girl. Yeah. And in LA, people go out to meet. So the only way I was going to go out is if I was going to work when I'm out. Yeah. So I started, you know, meeting people and hanging out with people and being invited to like little brunches for entertainment or whatever, because it's like, oh, you own this magazine. That's right. You're running the magazine. Come out. And I would meet people. And then that way, honestly, people started to get familiar with my work. And how I ended up at XO Nicole is because Nicole, at the time, she was Nicole Bitchy. And it was
Nicole Bitch. I remember that. Yeah.
But she would repost our magazine stuff all the time. And it was really helpful because, you know, we were not gossip.
And y'all didn't know her like that or anything?
Didn't know her. She just would, you know, the people that we wrote about, she liked them. And so she would repost it onto her blog.
And it wasn't gossip?
It wasn't gossip. It was like, this. They talked about this, and it was a picture.
Because that's all that was flying at that time. Right.
And it was really hard because I was like, I will not write gossip. I want to sit with these people. I want to know who they are, and I want to write about who they are.
Well, that goes back to what you said about like having a responsibility because of the family, the lineage. And it's like, no, this has to mean something, right? Yeah.
So that was that. Shondaland, I think, I really don't remember. I mean, of course, you know, you're like Shondaland when it comes
XC Nicole, Shonda, God dang. Like you writing for these people at the same time.
Yeah. So Shondaland, that was a big thing because, of course, you know, as an actor, you're like, oh, I'm going to work on a show. Okay. I had auditioned for Grays and like all these things. They're like, oh, I want to work on a show. And when she started the site and the kind of the media side or whatever, I'm like, it'd be cool to maybe write something for them. And I think I had pitched something, and I think they were like, we really like your writing and everything, but like, we don't want that story. And I think the first thing that I actually wrote for them was the story about my ex-fiance.
Wow.
And then that was my first piece. And then literally from there, they would sometimes just hit me up like, got anything for us? Yeah. Like, yeah, sure. Wow. I'll figure something out. And that led to like interviewing TLC for them, interviewing Morris Chestnut for them, like, you know, really so having a good relationship.
In Refinery 29, it was like the same sort of situation as Shondaland. Yeah.
I don't remember that. I know I interviewed Little Kim for them.
You know what's kind of cool though is that it's almost like, you know, the fact that you were being active. You didn't know when you started your business, your writing, but you didn't know where it was going to lead to.
No, of course not.
You know, you were doing it because you like, hey, I want to do this, and I'm gonna just take a more entrepreneurial route and get it done myself. But then it led to all these other opportunities that you didn't even imagine it would lead to. No, you ain't got not a single.
No, you ain't let me sit up here with
I would never, you know, I would have stopped the cameras quick and been like, hold on, cut. You know what I'm saying?
That's not right. Thank you. I was like, my mouth's a little dry. Okay. Go ahead.
So anyway, it's just you going out there and doing your own thing led to you getting these opportunities elsewhere, you know. And then when you're doing big things with like XO Nicole, these other people are going to notice. Right. It kind of legitimizes you to a degree, right? And then like you said, Little Kim, Nia Long, right? That's one of them?
Yeah.
Okay, Morris Chestnut.
That was big because I love Nia Long.
Right.
She's like... to me.
Yeah, she's like black cinema royalty, but I don't even want to put black on it because I don't want to limit her like royalty, that. Cinema royalty. So you're talking about Morris Chestnut. All the ladies love Morris Chestnut, right?
To this day. To this day. Okay.
So have you, I mean, and that's the next question I want to ask. Have you interviewed anybody where you were like so starstruck that it was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm interviewing this person? Nia Long is one of them. But
Jamie Foxx was kind of like
Jamie Foxx, I saw that one too.
Jamie Foxx was kind of like that. But what I thought was so cool about Jamie is that he's disarming. So at first you're like, oh, Jamie Foxx. But immediately he goes, you look beautiful. Man,
it takes the pressure off.
Look at your hair. You're looking nice, blah, blah. And I'm like, thank you, you know. So he immediately, you know, kind of brings it.
And maybe he's aware of that too. Yeah.
You know, but that was cool. Like that was a moment because I think Jamie Foxx is the most talented person on earth.
Yeah. Ever.
Like, I literally think
it's like God
now
just
that
threw
Michael
everything
Jackson
in there.
has left us, Jamie Foxx is the most talented person on earth. He's so funny. He can act. He can sing.
Impressions, like, everything.
Yeah, like, I mean, he's ridiculous.
A cheat code, for sure.
Crazy mind, like, you know. So Jamie Foxx was definitely a person. But TLC meant so much to me as a kid.
Yeah.
Me and my cousins, we would just listen to them and wear the clothes and all that. So just getting to, like, sit on the phone with, like, T-Boz and Chili. They were so nice and so sweet. And usually, you know, you have, like, maybe 15 minutes with a person. We talked for, like, an hour. Mm-hmm. And anything that I asked, they were open, you know, about Left Eye, about themselves, about what they learned in the business. And, you know, you don't always get a chance to, like, talk to people who meant something to you in your life. So that was definitely a moment that I was like, this is cool, man. Like, you did all right for yourself, little girl. Like, that's how I felt.
Yeah. And, well, there's another thing about you. Wait, let me, Kim Fields, Mike Epps, Wanda Sykes. Mm-hmm. Man, so many different people. Adrian from The Real.
Yeah, Adrian Bayham. Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Kerry Washington was
Kerry
cool
Washington,
too.
yeah.
She was a person whose career I was like, oh my God. Especially before Scandal, she was doing a lot of indie films, which has always been what I wanted to do. It's like that kind of indie, you know, really, really like cool films that are like story, character driven, like whatever. So talking to her was really cool too.
Lance Gross.
Yeah, Lance. And I had interviewed Lance for my magazine. He was on our cover. And I actually still have the first magazine and he signed it for me. Wow. So it was crazy to be like, that was like 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. Now I'm talking to Lance. Lance has a family, has kids. And we're so...
Everything came full circle,
you know, it was cool to talk to him again. Like, just get on camera and be like, oh...
I remember you. Yeah.
And with Lance, we kept up. Like, Lance would invite us over. Like, you know, he's just a
cool,
real nice guy. Yeah. But it's cool to, like, be able to have that now. Where it's like I'm interviewing people who I interviewed at the start. You know?
Because then it shows that, you know, both of you guys' trajectory was...
the same.
Exactly, right? And then also the whole cast of Harlem.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Megan Good. Mm-hmm. The other guy that's on P-Valley right now.
Tyler.
Yeah. So...
Sometimes you're like, God, really, that day?
So just when I thought her type was the Dark Chocolate Brothers, she proves me wrong.
I do like them chocolate. But, you know, you can appreciate any, you know, just beauty in general.
Because it's not just the look. I'm sure it's the confidence that these people possess, too.
Yeah, he had a good energy, too, to him. It was like, oh, like a real grounded energy. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, too, when you interview people and that you never met, you don't know, so you kind of trying to figure out what the appeal is. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, okay, I get why you booking all of this stuff.
Talking to Nia Long, talk to Nia Long, you're like, she has this, like, energy that just sucks you in and you're like, oh, it's not just about you being stunning. You also have this energy that's like, like, you know.
Well, that's the same way you feel about those people is the same way that I feel today.
Oh, like, really?
No, absolutely.
That's nice.
Absolutely. It's the certain energy and confidence that you carry. You can feel it. It's the same thing when I interviewed Mia Ray.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as she walked, and like, I went to high school with her. We was cool. Mm-hmm. But she was somebody else when she walked through through the door, you know, a few months ago. I was like, oh, shoot, I get it. You know what I'm saying? And certain people just kind of carry that energy. Well, hell, we know you carry it because you inspired somebody by the name of Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
Like, you know Oprah, she said she was inspired by you. I need to hear the whole story.
At Black Women in Hollywood, she was there. Actually, the year that I won was the first year that they did a partnership with OWN, and they showed the award show on her channel. And that was really cool. Like, Gina Prince Bythewood gave me my award. I watched Love and Basketball every day.
Oh my God.
When I was younger, like every single day, I watched Love and Basketball.
Oh my God.
So actually, Oprah, my mom actually tells the story much better than me. But Oprah sat at the table right next to us, like right here, and me and my mom were here. So when I got off stage, she like Oprah has this energy where she's Oprah. You know, she knows. She's like, I'm Oprah. Y'all know who I am, you know, type of thing. But it's not like, it's very quiet, it's very whatever. Yeah. And she like took my hand and like pulled me down to her, and I was like, kind of like,
I'd have been shocked.
Looking at her, she's like, congratulations, that was beautiful, you know, blah blah. And I was like, okay, thank you, Oprah. It's my mom. But then the next year they invited me back because, you know, someone else won the next year. They invited me back to kind of just, you know, pass the torch over. And she was sitting at a table with Joy Winans, because she's on Greenleaf.
Yeah,
I know Joy from growing up, going to Perfecting. So, you know, hi, Joy, you know, whatever. And I was like, oh, you know, Oprah was in there. So, I mean, Iman Milner, y'all remember from last year. I was very inspired by your speech. And I was just like,
whoa.
Girl, what?
She remembered?
Yeah, she said my entire name. I was like, well, Oprah Winfrey, nice to meet you. It's
wow,
so nice to see you again.
Wow.
But it was a really cool moment, right?
Yeah.
You look up your whole life, watching Oprah.
Yeah.
You know, and seeing her, and for her to be like, not only do I remember your entire name, I was inspired by that speech.
Absolutely.
And she's like, just like I told you last year. Like, kind of like, girl, what is wrong with you? Wow. Don't introduce me to yourself like we ain't met before. Kind of. It was like that energy.
Whoa.
Yeah, we took a picture together.
So and the fact that you were shocked when I said that I feel that way about you, the same way that you felt about Nia Long.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be shocked by that, because Oprah, she remembered you, but you still possess this humility though, and gratitude.
Because I mean, people are regular. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Oprah is Oprah. It's like Oprah, like Beyonce, like, you know,
that's it.
There's a couple words like, you're not regular, but everybody else, it's like, you know, you're out here, you're trying to do it, you hope that people like it, but you don't have any guarantee that people will rock with anything that you do.
Okay. So let me ask you this, because your mother was a dancer, right? She was in the arts.
Alvin Ailey, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Alvin Ailey. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. So Alvin Ailey, and I remember me and Bridget went to New York to visit, and she was like, I want to go to an Alvin Ailey, because she used to dance. And I was like, man, I ain't going to see nobody in no tights, and I ain't doing this, right? I went to the show and loved.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it, man. What are some of the strengths that you picked up from your mom, and what are some of the strengths that you picked up from your dad?
Dancers, I always say, people don't realize that dancers are athletes. They're athletes, that they're putting their body through a lot.
Yeah.
All the time, every single day.
Yeah, that's true.
Pushing past injuries. Like, you know, my sister is a ballerina at New York City Ballet. And she gets hurt. She has to go to a PT and do all rehab. Like, you know, it's all the same thing.
Yeah,
She's on her toes every day.
Damn. So you saw that firsthand.
Yeah, so work ethic, definitely. From my mom.
And pushing through the pain too.
Yeah, sometimes you do have to push through. My mom also has my mom is out cold in terms of energy. Like how, you know, black women in Hollywood, whatever. There are people still, I'll see them and be like, how your mama doing? Who met her that one night, that one day.
But they remember.
Yeah, my mom fills up a room. And she's not trying to do that. She's just like that. My sister has it too. It's just like I'm here. Very, very divas. But not in a bad way. They are divas. My mom's an actual diva in real life, you know?
Ain't no
she
acting.
commands that attention. Yeah, she commands that. And she's not demanding it. She commands it. And that's different, you know? So I definitely got that from my mom. I can turn that on. My dad, same thing. He has that too. But it's a little bit more like, and now I'm done. Yeah. My dad will bring a book to a party.
Yeah.
Because at some point, I'm over this, right? I know how to pull it back. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. No FOMO.
So he will never overdose on that stuff. It's like, nah. Yeah.
My dad would throw a party. We used to throw parties when I was a kid, and everybody come over and drinking champagne, and my dad smoking cigars. And But then it's like, this is a man who's also going to go in a room and write a play in a weekend, you know, whatever it is. So a different kind of work ethic, drive, right, of focus in that way. And then my dad did everything. You know, my dad and my godfather and all them, they were the first, like Rockefeller and those guys who were just, we are just going to get this the way we get it, right? Like, there was literally no reason why this young black Detroit playwright should be able to go to Lincoln Theater and put up a play that he wrote about his city, his people, at 20-something years. Like, that shouldn't be happening, right?
Yeah.
And not having the backing of a white theater institution, but being able to go to that theater institution, have them come to you and say, we need that play here. And you don't change nothing about it. You know, this is a guy who is like, yeah, Ruby Dee is in my Broadway.
Get the,
premiere.
God.
Denzel Washington's in my Broadway premiere.
Yep, I saw that too, yeah.
And I'm not changing nothing. This is how we talk. This is how we move. This is how whatever. I'm going to bring the street to Broadway. So making a magazine and stuff, that's all from my dad. That type of thing. Like, no, I don't need that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get it how I feel like it needs to be got, and I'm gonna write about my people, the people I think are dope.
Yeah.
You don't get to tell me who I should read about. I get to tell you who you should read about. I got that from my dad. That kind of like, I don't know, mob boss type of attitude.
Yeah.
Like, you know, me and my older brother love mob movies when my grandfather was into that life too. My dad's dad really was. Really was that guy. So I think we have a little bit of that in us,
in y'all
right?
DNA,
like, like, no, you don't actually get to dictate how I live or what I do or what I get to do that. And I think I have my mom's feminine side, so it doesn't come off as brash.
That helps because it's almost like I'm assertive. I'm not just gonna compromise my integrity and do what you want me to do, but I also know how to play fair and nice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's dope.
But I also know when it's like, I'm not playing it anymore.
I know when to
right?
quit.
Yeah. Like, hey, it's time to put this magazine together. Don't want to hear an excuse. Let's do it. You know, like that's how I can.
Let's get it done.
Yeah, like I don't really give myself any excuses because I'm like, you know, my dad was paying people to pass out flyers in like hams. You know, Detroit, like I got some hams for everybody during the holiday. Pass out these flyers. You know, there's no social media when he's selling out. You know, the music hall for every. There's no social media. It's word of mouth, right? I saw this play is dope. A play in Detroit. You know what I'm saying? It's about us. Let's go up here and see this play. I got that from my dad, right?
So you were never afraid of hard work. Some people are afraid of the task. They like, oh man, start a magazine. That's going to be hard. And I might run into this, that. Nah. But you saw
I'm just in it. And then I'm like, and then you figure it out.
And then you figure it. But you had to get that from your parents because you saw them overcome so much adversity and do the impossible. Wow. Okay. So now was there ever any pressure? Because here's the thing. It's one thing to grow up in a family of theater artistic royalty. And it's another thing to actually live up to it. Yeah. And you've done both. So was there ever any pressure on your end growing up? Like, man, these are the footsteps that I'm following in. And I even know some artists who try to deviate from what their parents doing so that they can carve out their own path or whatever. So what were your feelings on all of this growing up? Was there ever any pressure or did you ever feel like, man, I don't want to do the same thing. I want to just kind of create my own lane. And then all of a sudden you ended up falling into it, you know?
No, like I said, I started early.
So it was just, that's all you knew.
Yeah, it's like I started at 8 and I liked it. Yeah. It wasn't like my parents forced me. My dad just was like, I think you could, you know, let's see if you like it. Did the play. I was like, this is tight. I think I'm good at this. You know, my dad was like, yeah, you're good at it, you know, whatever. So, like I said, though, whatever I was into, my parents were cool with it because I went through like a thing. I was going to be a pediatrician. My dad's best friend was my pediatrician growing up. So I'm like, pediatricians are cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, this black guy who I adore is my pediatrician. He stitched my forehead up. You know, like this is what I want to do. So I thought I was going to do both. So I think I just was kind of like, okay, it's in you, right? I think the biggest thing, actually the struggle for me with writing and why I never wanted to call myself a writer or do writing because it came easy to me. Shit. Yeah, and I was like, should be harder. Like I shouldn't be able to sit down and write a feature story, 2,000 words in a few hours. Like this should be harder.
That's sometimes a curse. Yeah, right? When it comes so easy, right?
So I felt like that, right? And then at some point I think I was like, don't think it has to be hard. I think you can just keep pushing yourself to try new things, write differently. So, you know, releasing a book of poetry, that's different.
Writing 300 stories.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's different types of writing, right? So, like, you push yourself in that way, right? Like, how can I tell the same story in maybe 15 words in a poem, right? If I write a whole story about what happened in Shondaland, how can I condense it to a poem? Yeah. Right?
So writing, you were already great at writing. It was more so like, how can I enhance my abilities?
Yeah,
it's
how can
the
I make
nuances
it better?
And subtleties of writing that you were kind of focused on.
Yeah, and acting, I did it by going to school, right? I'm like, I know I can act. I to this day, I'm like, see me on the boards, you know, see me on the stage. I'm cold at this. You know, like I shot a movie last year and we didn't get a chance to rehearse. It was COVID, you know, so I get to Oakland, get on set. You don't have time to rehearse. You know, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's go.
Damn.
Let's do it.
So that's the next question I was going to ask you. How has having a theater background, it kind of gives you an advantage in the world of acting versus people who might just come fresh to LA with no theater experience, right? Is there an advantage to that?
I think it's more that you always know how to just walk on set and be ready. At least that's what it's been for me. I can't speak for everybody.
It's the discipline that you gain from the theater world.
It's discipline. Like I said, shoot a movie, we have a certain amount of time. I'm in DC. The person I'm acting with is in New York. Our director is in LA. And we're talking on the phone. I think we had one read through. We had no rehearsals, really. We have to come to set ready to work.
Prepared.
You know, and this is a film that is backed by Sundance, but we don't have there's no huge budget. So we can just be chilling.
You ain't got a million takes to get it right.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
we're shooting this thing and we got 2 weeks to, you know, shoot a movie, a feature. You know what I'm saying? And you feel, you have a toolbox. You're like, I know how to do this. You know, I know how to be like, okay, cool. 2 hours every day I'm on my script. I'm doing character work. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm emailing my actor. She has this question and she says this, blah, blah, blah. I have this here, blah, blah, blah. Hit the director. Hey, this is what I'm thinking from what she says. Help me with that backstory a little bit so I can be clear. That's from theater.
Wow.
You know, for me. Yeah. For somebody else, it could be. I've taken classes clearly in LA for film and TV, but for me, that comes from theater.
Yeah. And this movie is called 1,000 Faces. Did I get that right?
1,000 Faces, yes. And me, I'm like...
It's in post-production currently right now. How was it like being the lead in a feature film? And I saw some photos. It looks gorgeous, man.
Yeah.
And the chemistry between you and old boy, I don't even have to hear it. And it's just oozing off the picture. So how was that?
It was cool. Again, I've realized a lot of times people ask me questions and I'm like, I don't really know how that happened. But yeah, I got an email from Elton, who's our director. It was like, hey, I saw you a long time ago in Love Escapes Us and at a film, it was like a film kind of panel. And he was like, I've been wanting to work with you. Don't know if you're working right now, if you're acting right now, what's going on. But like, if you want the role is yours. And I was like.
No audition, nothing.
No. And I read the script.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is exactly what I would want to do.
Wow.
You know, an indie film about a girl who's had a lot of the same life experiences as me. It's cool. It's innovative. It's Black, but it's also kind of experimental, like different, quirky. Oh, this would be so sweet to do. And I'm like, I'm in.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it was the same thing with Julian Elijah Martinez. He was doing Wu-Tang at the time, the Wu-Tang show. And I think he offered him the role too. And it was just cool. Honestly, it was a dream come true for me. Because I was like, I had started focusing more on writing and just kind of was like, you know, we'll see. And it was cool to be like, wow, all right, I'm going to go be a lead in a feature for the first time in my life.
First time?
My first time being a lead, in a feature.
Wow.
And
that's different than actually having the support, right?
Exactly, yeah.
You carrying stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and most of the film is me and him. Most of it is me and him. Shit. So it's like, you can't get up there and be talking about, ooh, you should do. Like, you know, it's me and you.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And there's long dialogue. Elton's a really cool writer, and he gives the characters, gives the characters like these beautiful speeches and stuff. And
August Wilson, man, yeah,
right. You know, where you're like, oh, I get a chance to like have a moment here. Yeah. And for me, I grew up loving film. Yeah, you know, I was raised in theater, but I grew up loving film. So that's what you always want, like, a chance to be a lead in a Black, you know, something a Black man wrote and is directing.
But you said it's experience. Like, that's some of my favorite. I wish we had more Black films, like romantic stuff or whatever, where it was experimental. I think like Half Plenty, it came out years ago. That was one of my favorite joints because it was weird. It was
Medicine
awkward.
for Melancholy.
Yeah, that type of stuff. Yeah,
cool. Where it's like, it's not super pristine. No one gets married at the end. Nothing wrong with that. But like, you know, it's different. Yeah. It's like these people are kind of not perfect. You know, she has her shit, the guy has his shit, and they're in this weird, quirky circumstance, and then it becomes superhuman somewhere in the middle. I'm like, oh, this is a perfect script.
Damn, you got me excited, man. I can't wait to see that.
Me either. I'm like, shoot, let me see something. What y'all do? I got a couple scenes I can see. Like, what's good? But yeah, it was perfect. And coming off of, moving away from LA and being like, I need a break from LA. I've been in LA for 10 years.
And that's why you moved to DC.
Yeah, I moved to DC, and like, okay, I moved during the pandemic and just like, okay, let's see how I like it here. I'll be around some Black people, Black culture.
I know the dating scene is a little different there, I'm assuming.
It is. It is.
So the next question I was going to ask you is, do you still see yourself being married, having kids, all of those things?
Yeah, of course. I think I have a different view of it now, knowing that like, oh, you can get
This
there,
can happen.
with a person. I think my biggest thing is like, I want any relationship I'm in to be healthy, both individuals healthy all the way. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to play any games with anyone. Like, if we're locked in, we're locked in. Let's do it and let's live a life together and create a life together. And one in which we both feel supported enough to, do the things that matter to us. Like, this is cool. Like, you and your wife supports your, the other things that matter to you. You know what I'm saying? And you guys have a family and a home. Like, that's dope. You know what I'm saying? But that takes two people committed to being like, yeah, you also get to be you in the best way that you can be. Things that matter to you and make you happy. Right? And I'm confident in my enough in myself to go, yeah, go do that. Yeah. That's dope. How can I support? You know what I'm saying?
Shit.
That's what you.
That's why you accepted my invitation to come here because of the. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's. I think that.
Keep in mind, y'all. I didn't know because it was almost like reaching out to a celebrity. I really have a deep reverence and respect for this person. So I was just shocked that she responded and was like, "Yeah, cool." I was like, what?
I mean, that's honestly me. I'm always like, "It's cool," unless it's a real no, where I'm like, "Hell no." And then in that way, I would have let you down easy. Like, I don't know if I have time.
Yeah, and I would have totally understood.
Yeah, but I'm like, nah, this is cool. And, Cass and like Detroit, even Detroit is, even though I haven't lived here since I was younger, like. I mean, my father, my mother, like my family, and I think growing up at the time that we grew up in Detroit is like in you, know?
Yeah.
So there's
That's why I'm back. Everybody was asking me in LA, like, what you going back there for? It's just,
and you need, I think after you've been in LA for a while, you crave the warmth of like a city that's so Black and a city that feels like home. And DC has that too. There's a lot of Detroiters in DC, a ton. But yeah, you crave that. You need that to like fill you back up because LA is like, whoa, it can deplete you in many ways.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely, man. Golly. Okay, so there's and we just talked about you wanting to, or you see yourself getting married and having kids. Yeah. You have like I want to call it, where you sell merchandise. It's called Byline Baddie. Byline Baddie, which I thought was just such a dope, right? It's just a dope title because it captures you, and also you use it to promote other Byline Baddies, right? Like a directory for people to search for if they want a Black
writer.
A Black writer who's a baddie,
right?
Yeah. So she sells, crew neck sweatshirts, t-shirts, totes, mugs. I saw one quote that said, "Forgive yourself for what you didn't know." Yeah. Right? And I was just watching this interview, or at least this conversation or this post Will Smith gave, right? And it was the first time we had heard him speak since the Chris Rock slap. Right. And he basically said that he's trying to figure out how to be remorseful while not being ashamed of himself. Yeah. So I think it's the same with respect to that line. What went into that phrase?
During the time when I was like, I moved out of my house in LA, I went and moved up where my mom was in San Jose, California. And like I said, that feeling as a woman, like, dang, did I put myself in harm's way? Like, what did I not see, in this person? And like, I'm an overthinker. Clearly, I analyze things and all those things. And so I spent a lot of time after that, especially right after it, being like, what did I miss? What did I miss that put me here? Because I never want to be here again. And I'm a solution-based person. So I'm like, how do we fix it? Right?
And not dwell in it. Yeah.
Right. And I was like, I got to forgive myself for that because I just didn't know. Forgive yourself for what you didn't know. And I think at that time I was like, I'm going to start like writing like quick little things again, trying trying to condense my way of writing to a more efficient way of like short bits, right? Instagram, something that people can share. Because I write long form on my blog and stuff like that. So I was like, I want to do smaller things that people can just share on, social media. And that was one of the first ones, forgive yourself for what you didn't know. And that was really for me. Like I would tell myself that every day, forgive yourself for what you didn't know. You just didn't know. Wow. How could you have seen that? You didn't know. Yeah. Just didn't know. So there's no sense of being hard on yourself. You didn't know.
You didn't know.
You didn't know that man was going to do that. Yeah. How could you have predicted that?
Damn, that's so powerful, man.
That's that.
Wow. There's another one where it's, I know it has the word temporary in it, but it resonated with me.
Everything is temporary.
Everything is temporary. So this too shall pass.
Yeah, right? Literally. I have that in Arabic on the side of me. It's like in Arabic writing, but this too shall pass. But everything is temporary. It's like, everything, literally everything. Your life is temporary. Yeah. Right? So anything that you're going through, that's temporary. It could feel like this is never going to end. I am going to be sad forever about this. And you're not. Wow. It's just not the case. And I think I got a dose of real life early on because my dad died when I was 16. And me and my dad were super close, clearly. Yeah. And there's something about losing a parent that makes you kind of realize, like, most of this shit does not matter. Yeah. That you care about, most of it doesn't matter. Your friends, your little stuff, like, doesn't matter, know? And people can be here and be gone the next day.
I heard Mike Tyson and Dame Dash, they both lost their mother at a young age. Yeah. And they said similar things, but Mike Tyson said it was the best. It was almost like the best thing that happened to me. And I know a lot of people wouldn't get that at the surface because Mike is super deep. But what he meant is that, well, what else worse can happen to me?
Exactly.
And I think everyone is sort of living a fairy tale until you experience the loss of a parent. That's when you realize, like, oh shit, I'm not gonna be here forever.
So imagine 16, and so a part of the reason why I worked the way that I did after college was like, I used to be like, maybe I won't live that long. You don't know. You know what I'm saying? So I gotta go. Damn. That was my thing. I was like, I gotta get to LA and I gotta go. I'm not playing with y'all. I'm not out like that. I'm working. And I think just now, maybe over the last 2 years, I've become a more relaxed person, like a little bit
enjoying
more
the success a little.
I might sit for a day and read a book and not feel bad about that, and like not go to the gym and like watch a movie just to watch it. I just got there because before I was like, nah, everything goes quickly. For me with my dad, I'm like, my dad was 49 when I was born. My dad was 50 something when he passed away, or 60 something when he passed away. And I'm like, if I only live to be 60, I'm 25. At this time, I was thinking 25 in my head. And I'm like, if I get another 30 years, I gotta go. I gotta get stuff going. That was my thought and my thinking.
Thank God it was, because we wouldn't have got all this great stuff from you.
Thank you. So yeah, it is. It's a hard thing to do at a young age to lose a parent, but it does put you in a certain type of overdrive of like, and that's why, like, forgive yourself for what you didn't know.
Damn,
this guy who I met a couple years ago, he didn't mean anything to me a few years ago, is going to be the reason you don't get out of bed. Get up. Like, you don't have that much time to waste on this thing. You can heal, you can go to therapy, you can do all this stuff, but you got to be doing that while also keeping it moving, because you don't know.
What are some books that you would recommend for people to read? Like, who are some of your favorite authors, I guess?
Oh, I love Toni Morrison.
Okay.
Toni Morrison writes, she's verbose. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you can't read Toni Morrison casually. You got to get in that book. You know what I'm saying? Because you'll miss something. You'll have to go back and read another sentence. I reread Color Purple this year, randomly. I hate the movie.
But there's a lot of trauma stuff up in there, right? Yeah.
I reread the book and I was like, oh, Alice Walker is actually one of the most incredible writers ever. It's so beautiful. Her writing is just incredible. So that I love. I like An American Marriage. If you've never read it, it's an amazing book by a young Black writer, Tayani Jones. I think that's how you say her first name. And I read a lot. Actually, it would be hard for me to sit here and do this. Yeah. I like, I do read Shakespeare. I'll read plays. kind of just by myself.
You all into it. Yeah.
I like to read plays.
Yeah.
I read books all the time though. I always have a book with me, like always. I got that from my dad. My mom is a big reader too.
So do you prefer audio, or you still old fashioned with it? You like to turn them pages?
I do not want to hear a book. I do not want to hear a book.
Right. Yeah.
Like people will tell me, you don't do audiobooks. No.
Yeah.
I want to hold it in my hand. I want to dog ear pages that I like. I want to highlight stuff and be like, wow, look at the writing in this. Like that's what I want to do. I want to hear it. No.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you a real tough question, and I know you don't like people placing you, in a box, right? You don't like constraints or ceilings. You just bust right through all of them, right? But if you could choose between writing and acting, and you could only choose one, that's probably hard, right? I'm sure. I'm sure it's hard to answer
right now.
Mm-hmm. Take your time. Because I want you to answer this as honestly as you possibly can.
That's really hard.
Yeah. If I would have asked you 5 years ago, you would have said acting. I would have said
acting for sure. Yeah. Now I'm like, wow, writing is such a big part of my life.
Can't separate them.
I'm actually, you see me, I'm like having a hard time. I really do believe, like, I'm a person who speaks things into I speak things into my life. So I'm like, man, how do I answer this question?
Yeah.
I'm going to say acting. Yeah. And this is why I'll say it.
I need to hear the why. I need to hear it.
Because I still would get to tell stories and bring characters to life. Because when you're interviewing a person, that's what you're doing. You're telling their story, right? And they are the character. So I get to write out, the story of their life or the story of this moment in their life. So I would still get to deal with stories and characters. But I think actors sometimes have a little bit more freedom with writing things. Being able to say, I think this character would actually do this. This character would actually say that maybe. So there's some of that in there too. Whereas if you're just writing, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to actually have much to do on the acting side. So I would say acting because I think that there would still be room to write.
That's a really good answer. I wasn't expecting you to be able to answer that on the fly like that.
That's hard really though. Yeah. That's really hard. Like you see my whole body energy change.
So in a perfect world, you would actually be able to act and you would occasionally write projects that either you act in or don't act in.
That's actually my dream is that, get together, make a film or be on a show, couple seasons. I would not want to be on a show forever for a long time. Yeah. I wouldn't want to play the same character over and over. But yeah, just be able to make some cool films, have the money from that, buy a cute little ranch, raise some kids and some horses. Yeah. Come back, do something, leave. But one of my biggest things is getting all of my father's work put back up. Wow. And I don't have to be in it. Yeah. But having the means and the opportunity to do that would mean a lot to me. Yeah.
Golly, man, like I feel 10 times more wise.
Really?
Yeah, like
because I just be talking.
No, I'm serious. This conversation, I'm already different than I was prior to you coming over here.
Oh, wow.
As a result of it. So I'm extremely humble, extremely thankful, and extremely grateful that you took. I never even imagined that I would get this much. So a lot of times people think I'd be doing this for the audience. It'd be for me, because I don't ever want to feel like that there's not more I can learn.
Yeah,
right.
Of course,
and I learned so much from this. The number one thing is just get up, perseverance. Yeah. Don't stay down. Don't be ashamed of yourself to the point to where you stop living.
Yeah.
Right. Take life seriously. Recognize that you don't have all the time in the world, but yet also remember to enjoy the success sometimes.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I learned. Another thing that I'm going to say is I saw on your stories that you was at a concert.
I would.
Well, hold on now. Because I didn't know you knew this person. It makes sense that you hang around all these talented, successful people, right? Because why wouldn't you? I mean, artists they're inspired by other artists. Charity
is a genius.
I listened to her album. Somebody put me on. My friend Kathy. She's Detroit Red on Instagram, and she said, "You got to hear this." And I said, "What? Tenderheaded."
Yeah.
Every song on there, bang.
Yeah. And
Bang.
like Charity is my
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
But I am a fan of Charity.
Yeah.
Like, I think that Charity is a profound voice. Like, she writes, again, the same thing. She writes things that I'm like, what did you just say on here? You're out of your mind.
Yeah, yeah.
You're a girl who's out of her mind. You can sit and you can wring out every feeling that you've ever felt and put it into, it's like, I'm tearing up about her work.
I know,
not
yeah.
my work.
And I'm a dude,
her
and
work.
yeah, it's
You
like,
know
yeah,
what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Like, it just, and then she performs it, and you're like, you're crazy. You're a crazy girl. Like, you can sing like that. You can write like that. So I'm lucky that we're friends. I think we have a similarity in the way that we write, in the way that we feel things. But mine is over here and hers is over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Charity's incredible.
If I ever get her on the show, I want to go through each one of those songs because
you
it's
should.
just it's dope. So
It's on our mind.
I just thought I would bring that up. Charity, if you out there, I'm getting you on.
Charity, you should come. I say you should come. Yeah.
No, so I want to thank you so much. I know you're only in town till tomorrow, and I want to make sure you get a chance to spend more time with your family. They all fighting over your time right now, so I really want to thank you. And if there's any last words, first off, where can people follow you on social media?
I'm Iman N as in Nancy, Milner, not as in Nancy. That's not my middle name, so no. But Iman N Milner on everything. So ImanNMilner.com, my website has my blog on it. Has all my interviews, has everything that I've written for the most part, and acting stuff and voiceover stuff. Iman N Milner, Instagram, Twitter. It's everything. It's on everything is the same thing.
Wow. Y'all, listen, when I started this podcast, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. This is a moment right here that I feel like God is talking to me and letting me know that I'm on the right track. So thank you so much for coming over here.
Thank you for having me. I told you, I was like, I'm honored that you wanted to talk to me.
Shit, I'm on cloud 9 right now, man.
Good.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and I hope to have you back.
Oh, of
to
course.
talk about 1,000 Faces.
Yeah, no, for real. For real. I'm so excited to see it. I haven't seen it. So I haven't seen nothing of it. And I'm like, I am so excited for it to come out so I can be like, oh, this is so as cool as I thought it was going to be. Like, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.
All right, Conversations with TinBridge, y'all. Peace.